Hi, I'm Reverend Paula Skiles with Unity Church of San Marcos. Thank you for being with us. And this beautiful message today is Look Before You Leap. And to start, we're going to begin with a meditation. And I invite you to close your eyes if it feels comfortable. And if you will, just let the spirit of the meditative music help you to move into a sense of creativity for yourself today. India Taylor is with me, and she's going to be sharing from her heart and her creativity. Thank you for being with me.
Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my heart the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my ears that I may hear voices of truth thou sendest clear. And while the brave notes fall on my ear, everything false will disappear. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my ears, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my mouth and let me bear gladly the warm truth everywhere. Open my heart and let me prepare love with thy children thus to share. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my heart, illumine me, Spirit divine.
Thank you, India. So we were sharing from our Wings of Song, Open My Eyes. So we will open our spiritual eyes as we close our physical ones. So let's just take a moment then to breathe in and breathe out and just let go of all outer distractions. And as you do, I invite you to remember that everything is created twice. First in mind, then in our physical realm. So we take a moment now to breathe in that inspiration of spirit. That place within us observes and witnesses the very wonder of the images that come to our mind and our heart. And in this process, we will breathe in that creative energy of spirit. And letting go of our difficulties and challenges, we set them aside. And we ask Spirit for the direction that we need in this day. As we open and let go of all the restrictions we put on ourselves, the limitations. And we say thank you as we move deeper with each breath. Attending to learning all that we have in this moment to be. Open and receptive. We anchor our being within you, precious Spirit, with each breath. With each breath. we find ourselves moving into your presence and finding it and feeling it and knowing it. And we let go of all the outer, all appearances, all facts, all irrelevancies, all relevancies, to simply be in your presence. And we let ourselves move deeper into that silent space within us. And we allow ourselves to feel that sense of being in the right place at the right time. The right place at the right time. And so we say thank you, Spirit, as we move further into that silent place. We thank you that you speak to our hearts, our awareness. And we do declare in this moment, I am in my right place at the right time. And so we say yes. Yes to that sense of creativity flowing and doing and being within us. And with each breath we open our eyes, bringing back with us into our present awareness as it feels comfortable. And opening to that beauty that is within each of us, of creativity. So India Taylor is going to share with us from Karen Drucker.
That's right.
Okay. And what is the piece that you're doing?
It's called Change the Way.
Change the Way by Karen Drucker. Thank you.
And I chose it because it also has to do with spiritual vision, the topic today. What do you want? Where do you want to go? You'll get what you want if you act as if you know. It starts with you. Do you believe it? It's all in the way that you choose to see it. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you feel lost and you can't find your way, keep your eye on the prize, it will materialize. You can't miss when you change your perception, leading you to a new direction. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. Yeah, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change.
Thank you, India. Wonderful. And thank you for being with me today. All right, so our message is look before you leap. And so we're going to begin. It is a message about the necessity of our spiritual perception of a greater good. All right. So Soren Kierkegaard, it was a Danish philosopher, and he told a story about a goose who was wounded and had landed in a barnyard with a lot of chickens. And he played with the chickens and ate with the chickens, so to speak, for quite some time. And then one day, he was acting like a chicken. All right? They just, scratching and making little goosey clucks. Anyway, so there inevitably became a time, sometime later on, where the goose was healthy and that kind of thing, but a flock of geese flew over. And something stirred in this goose's heart. And he sort of, how they flap their wings. If you've ever seen geese, they've got this little, energy. Anyway, so something stirred, and he began to just flap, and he sort of rose up for a moment, and then he settled down. He was looking around at all the chickens, and he just sort of settled back down, and then went on about being a chicken. Now, however, there's also a story that was told by the Scottish preacher John McNeill about an eagle who had been captured by this farmer. And this young eagle was, again, on a leash this time. And the eagle was in the barnyard with the chickens and things like that, and it's on a leash. And it was restrained, so it couldn't fly, right? It wasn't long before the eagle again, like the goose, began to kind of act like the chickens, all right? Scratching, pecking at the ground, those kind of things. And this is a bird that had been soaring in the heavens, so to speak, and now was scratching the ground in the barnyard. I don't know about you. I think I've been there once or twice, soaring, and then all of a sudden now I'm just scratching in the barnyard. But anyway, so one day there was a shepherd who had sheep up on the mountain and everything, and had come down into the area to sell his sheep, and knew this farmer, and saw this beautiful eagle on a leash, and he was like, oh, this is a bird that's meant to fly, and it's meant to, soar heights. And he says, it's a shame to keep this bird hobbled like this. Let it go. And the farmer's like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm going to do that. And so he took the leash off. The eagle continued to kind of wander around, and he was pecking because it didn't really realize that it didn't realize that it was free now. And so the shepherd picked the eagle up and put it on this high rock wall. And the eagle was able to look and see the sky, and all of a sudden flapped its wings and then took off, spiraling up and up and up, and did not come back. Now, the difference, you might ask, right? There's a difference. Well, I'd like to answer that with another story. In his book, First Things First, by Stephen Covey, he said that Viktor Frankl, who was an Austrian psychologist, survived the death camps of Nazi Germany, and he made a startling discovery while he was enslaved, essentially, about how or why some individuals survive horrible conditions and some do not. He looked at several factors, I'm sharing from the book: health, vitality, family structure, intelligence, survival skills, and he finally concluded that none of these factors was primarily responsible. He said the single most significant factor was a sense of future vision and the impelling conviction of those who were to survive They had a mission to perform or some important work left to do. And he said, survivors of the POW camps in Vietnam and elsewhere have also reported similar experiences. A compelling, future-oriented vision is the primary force that kept many of them alive and helped them to become creative individuals and join in with society again. So you might say that the POWs and the Eagles, they had to look before they leaped. Okay. But the looking, having something to look to, made it possible to leap. And I'm sensing whenever, that if you look at these stories, that the goose literally just was looking around, but at the ground. Just all of the stuff around, all of the familiar things, while the eagle had been placed back up and moved back into looking into a larger field of vision, if you will. And I think that that's probably a necessity if you want to move out of where you're going or what you've been doing and have something different. You have to look at things different, just like the song that India was sharing. You have a need. And so I would like to share this idea. When someone, divine or human, lifts us up, we can act like the eagle from that upliftment. And it's easy to get caught up in seeing all the chickens around us, all the problems, all of the stuff, or just not even caught up in it. Just, I know this. This is familiar. This is okay. I'm going to do this. And I'm happy enough. I'm happy enough. All right. So I'd like to share a story that I believe really offers us an opportunity to understand vision. You may not think it does, but I think it does. And this is when Jesus has been, and this is from Matthew 14. He's been out feeding the 5,000 men, plus women and children. We always have the numbers of men, but we never know what the women are. But anyway, so he is 14:22 is where I start. And it says, immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side. And while he dismissed the crowds, and after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up the mountain by himself to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. But by this time the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning he came walking toward them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." And Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Okay. So many times in my life, I don't know about maybe yours, but that story's always been focused on, Peter as faith, which we all acknowledge Peter represents that faith faculty within us, the ability to have faith and that thing, and how we don't always have enough faith. But what I see it as is actually the story really is that when those times occur, is that Christ Spirit is already reaching out for us to lift us up. And to me, that's the point of the story, is that which is directing, if you will, us to come, is already there to lift us up and keep us going. All right? It's there to help us. It's going to show us the way, if you will. And I think what happened is, what did it say? Peter started to notice all the wind. All right? When you and I start to focus on all the problems or why we can't do something or whatever's going on in our life and all of the outer things that seem to come against us, or the limitations we've placed on ourselves even. When we get focused on those things, we're going to sink. We're going to get down. We're going to get depressed. We're going to all of those other types of things that was occurring, if you will, in this circumstance. And so Peter, when he took his eyes off the storm and looked at Jesus again, right, and saw that he was reaching, they were able to get back, and he stopped sinking, and he was able to get back in the boat, right? The wind ceased. And it wasn't because they were finally in the boat and they were safe. But the wind ceased because there was, if you will, Peter had accepted that there was this place that he could look to, and that was Christ. He could look to Christ, and everything was going to be okay. Now, did that mean that there was never another wind? Did that mean that Jesus brought the storm to him? No. It just means that in those storms of life, or in those circumstances that we go through, as long as you and I will try to remember to look to that what is Christ to us. Christ energy in all of us starts with love, is compassion, is the energy of, if you will, giving out something of ourselves. It's always that place within us that brings to us an opportunity to share, to do, to give, to do whatever. And when we look to that first before we leave, so to speak, we're able to find ourselves uplifted throughout the journey, and find that the journey, we just don't even notice those winds. We don't notice that anymore. Our circumstances seem to change completely. And there's a movie, most of you know I love movies. And so there's a movie called Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. And the heroes of this movie are going to Hades to rescue Percy's mom. Now, getting into Hades is the easy part. I don't know about you guys, but I know how easy that can be. But getting out is the tough part, right? All right, so the one thing that they have to do is to get one of Persephone's pearls. And then once you have the pearl, you have to stomp on it and then envision exactly where you want to go. All right? So they're going to look before they leap. All right. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy had to envision herself back in Kansas, and then she had to click her heels and affirm 3 times, "There's no place like home." Now, to me, this is indicative. Our culture, if you will, our American culture, is clear that you need to envision, you need to be able to see and to hold something in your mind and your heart before you can get there. A lot of times when we're sinking, it's very hard to think or believe that someone's going to help, or we're going to be able to do it, or we're going to have something come through, or whatever. But I remind you that the story is about Jesus is already reaching down. Jesus is already there. Christ is already there. And so what you and I get to do is to recognize we can be active participants within this. Peter wasn't, just a nothing, nobody. He was that creative process saying, okay, I need some direction here. I need a little help here. And he was letting himself connect to that. I was thinking of the ideas that seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. As a minister, I've had an opportunity to experience watching people awaken to come alive, not only with faith and everything else, but just doing something that mattered to them, or having their dreams come true, and or just connecting with that spiritual energy of spirit within them. And following in Jesus' footsteps is not an easy thing to do, but I'd like to tell you a story of a woman who dealt with extreme prosperity challenges. Just getting by would have been an up for her. All right? She was living out of her car or on the couch of some friends every now and then. And as a result, she was kind of restricted. I mean, eating every other day kind of thing, not having a lot of stuff, trying to find some work, and actually was working, but just not making hardly anything. And she had a dream. She had a dream to go to our Unity Ministerial School to become a minister. And for 7 years, despite all the appearance of limitations, she held to this dream that she was going to do this. All right. Her vision and the cultivation of her faith helped her keep her focused for all those years. And there were things that occurred, normal things. She studied principles and began to align her thought processes in terms of her belief systems. Previously she believed, that she didn't have what it took to be a minister, or she believed all kinds of things that were self-defeating. And she began to see God as her source, and changed how she looked at things, as Karen Drucker's song was talking about, just changed the way she was looking at things completely. Until against all odds, her dream came true. After 7 years, she went to school and became an ordained Unity minister. And even when it seemed like her longings were an impossible dream, she maintained faith in the power and the presence of Spirit and connected to that Christ connection, believing. I want to share with you that it's not just a story. She not only moved out of that prosperity challenge, let's call it, where she was dirt poor and less than that. She moved into a place where she never had to worry about eating. She never had to worry about a place to sleep again. She never had to worry about anything ever again, because she had everything she needed constantly being created for her. That woman is me.
Wow.
I knew that.
That woman is me. It sometimes takes a little longer than you might think to get where you need to go. But if you hold it and you let yourself really know that, looking into that spiritual connection and trusting it, and then you just take that leap, I assure you, as things happen, you get guidance. You get guidance. So Jesus was walking on the water. That's a cool thing. That's not the point of this story, really. To me, the point is, no matter where we are when we're sinking, all we have to do is just take and reach our hands out. That's metaphorically. And there's a pastor, Tony Mayano, from sermoncentral.com, who said this, and I'd like to share this thought. As I look ahead, far ahead, 2 to 3 years down the road, I do see God doing it. Even though I may not know all the details today, that's what vision is. Vision is not a crystal ball or hearing audible voices. It is the belief in one's heart that God is going to do something that is consistent with His word and consistent with His will. And believing that what God is going to do will have an amazing impact on your life. Having vision is having the confident belief that the promises of God are going to be realized in the future of our church. Now, we are beginning a process of visioning this week for our church. Now, many of you probably aware, we're coming out of COVID, so to speak. We're now meeting in public or in person. I can say this. We're now meeting in person again, and having gone through the years of being apart, so to speak, our church, like many, have been affected by COVID. It's time for us to envision what we're going to do and what we're going to look like and how we're going to be, and allow ourselves to truly look through that lens, if you will, of spirit. And I'm really saying this. If you have some thoughts and ideas, you're part of our following. Message on our Facebook page. Let me know. I'd be interested in your thoughts of what vision and things that Spirit is offering you about weathering the storm, moving through, and letting go of the winds of resistance. And I invite you to take time for yourself, personally, to create a vision for the next 365 days, 1 year. And let your imagination roam. Just find a quiet place, light a candle, turn on some soft music that's inspirational. Find something to do, and then begin to write down what comes to you about what your year, August 21st, 2023, is going to look like at that point, or maybe even more later. And you're reviewing it. When you're writing it, you're reviewing that year and all the things that have come about. What successes did you experience? How have you grown in your relationships, or the things that are the highlights of your year? Whatever it is, write it down. Notice how you did or didn't see opportunities. Just think about it and then write it down. There is a creative impulse in us. Now, I was speaking earlier about how creativity takes a leap and then looks to see where it's at. In that impulse, there is a natural state of creativity to just create. By allowing our spiritual perception, that connection to spirit, to truly trust that dream within us and keep focused on that creativity has a channel to flow through into, so that we begin to create to something, towards something. Jesus understood the power of vision coupled with intention. He was casting a vision every time he talked about the kingdom of heaven that is within us. And he formed his thoughts beyond just words and actions. And he held in a vision for each of us, you and me, for an awakened life. One that doesn't repeat the same old problems, but one that moves into each day in a new and different way. One that feels vital And like the POWs, or like the people who have survived difficult or horrible circumstances, I encourage you to have and to hold and to connect. Because if you're breathing, you got a vision in there somewhere. You got one. Let it come forward. I invite you. Because everything's created twice. First in mind, and then in the outer. All right. This sounds like this is about over. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. Unity Church of San Marcos. Check us out. Thank you. God bless you.